Hello, this is Jim Brennan, and welcome to my presentation on my Applied Differentiation Plan for Post-University's Education 605 class titled Differentiated Instruction. My educational context is that of a secondary math teacher as well as lacrosse coach, both of which I've done for the past 20 years. I will be continuing these duties at a new institution this year, along with the additional role of Assistant Dean of Students, which involves addressing school, class, and individual needs through intervention and preventative methods. My rationale for wanting to implement differentiated instruction stems from issues I encountered throughout my teaching tenure. During my time, I had students whom I found myself saying that they don't need me, they are so smart they can teach themselves. I found these students were done activities quickly and would end up working with material for other classes. I also had students who, no matter how much time I reviewed a topic question with them and gave them extra attention in tutoring, continued to struggle with the material. From these situations, I realized two issues were happening in my classroom. I wasn't engaging all of my students, and I wasn't getting through to all of my students. I see differentiated instruction as a means to consistently challenge my students at both ends of the spectrum and all in between, to start with where they are in their education and get them where I want them to be. My plan to utilize differentiated instruction consists of identifying student interests and preferred ways of learning starting at the very beginning of the year with a survey. I will continue to gather information by having informal dialogues with them throughout the year. I also plan to assess their mathematical readiness at the beginning of each chapter. I will use this information to plan instruction and activities that students can relate to their interests and can complete proficiently in regards to their readiness level. I will use flexible grouping to foster a collaborative and cooperative atmosphere. I plan to use varied tiered activities incorporating Bloom's taxonomy and multiple intelligences to cater to the various learning profiles of my students. I plan to use spiral scaffolding where different degrees of support are provided to different tiers of learners. I also plan to use learning menus for my students so they can choose which types of problems they would like to work with, dictating the path of their learning. And I want to adjust my assessments from a formal test focus to one of peer and self-review of achievement and demonstration of various tasks and standards through the use of problem-based assessments. The pre-learning stage for my upcoming lesson consists of my introduction and demonstration of concepts pertinent to the unit. I will review the interest surveys from the beginning of the year to review student interests and learning preferences. I will use this data to plan homogeneous and mixed flexible groups for the upcoming activity. I will also administer the topic readiness survey for the upcoming chapter to determine student knowledge level of the upcoming material. A pre-activity self-assessment will also be given. Students will evaluate their thinking and communication skills. The self-assessment also will focus students on the skills they will be using in this chapter. In the during learning stage, students will work in similar readiness level groups and will be working collaboratively on tiered activities geared towards appropriate complexity levels. I will actively monitor each group during this activity segment, sitting in on each group and listening to their thinking, seeing their progress, and keeping them focused on the activity at hand. At the conclusion of this activity, I will bring all the students together to discuss common misconceptions about the activities and highlight critical observations. At the conclusion of the class discussion, the groups will be rearranged to work on problems of their choosing from a problem menu and to complete a peer assessment based on the initial groups and a self-assessment evaluating their progress with the chapter concepts. Once the self-assessment has been submitted, students will work individually on the remaining problems on the menu. For the post-learning activity, I will review both assessments and have conferences with students that did not fare well in either evaluation. As a class, we will review the problems completed from the problem menu, recap key observations, and address any questions students may have after completing the collaborative group activities. In my upcoming classes, I will continue to use various textbooks to provide a variety of different presentations of the content. I plan to use more exploratory activities where students can see how the topics they are learning apply to the real world. I plan on utilizing compacting for students who demonstrate mastery of concepts on the chapter pre-assessments. I also plan on doing mini lessons during tiered activities as one of the levels of spiral scaffolding. To differentiate my process, I plan on designing and using tiered activities in flexible group tasks at least once for each chapter. To differentiate the product, I plan on incorporating more project-based assessments where students can choose their final product that will be evaluated using a well-designed rubric incorporating student input. 2 differentiated instruction strategies that I want to find a place for in my instructional toolbox are graphic organizers and flipped classrooms. Graphic organizers are a visual aid that helps students organize their thoughts, definitions, and tricks of the trade around a central theme or concept. I believe this will assist students to understand the connections between various math concepts. Flipped classrooms came to light for me during the height of the pandemic, when students were learning from home. Instructional videos are created by the teacher for students to watch outside of class and then practice with the material in the classroom with the teacher's support. This activity gives more time for in-depth learning and the teacher present to answer questions. Students will not lose instructional time if absent due to the ability to watch these videos at home. I have 3 future goals pertaining to differentiated instruction for this upcoming year. Number 1, be patient. Carol Ann Tomlinson advises to make small changes and incorporate things slowly, and to build a differentiated instruction toolbox over time. I plan to make small tweaks to my current teaching style, such as incorporating spiral scaffolding. Doing too much too quickly can lead to any differentiated instruction attempts to fall flat. Number 2, use constant, varied forms of assessment. In order to incorporate differentiated instruction, one must see if it is effective and adjust on the fly accordingly. I plan to focus less on formal assessment and focus on informal evaluative means. I plan to promote more dialogue in my activities and for me to listen more to what is being said. Number 3, implementing student interests, learning profiles, and pre-assessment information. My previous teaching methods were uniform for everyone. My notes, my homeworks, my tests were all the same for everyone. I plan to use student information to personalize my teaching methods, engage student interests, and motivate them to learn. Options for differentiated instruction are diverse. Content, learning process, and products of understanding can all be adjusted to promote learning and understanding for each and every individual. By incorporating student interests and preferred ways to learn into my teaching methods, I can create memorable learning for years down the road. By challenging every student, setting the bar slightly above their level, a growth mindset is instilled to try and reach that bar. The role of the teacher is to get every student from where they are to where you want them to be. Differentiated instruction can do that.